say right on time. I'm exhausted, but I was never panicked. I never once had the impression that we're cooked. And it's been a
I
few
think you
weeks
you're
since
right.
I've been able to say
You did not say that they were cooked,
that.
and you can argue that they heard your group chat message because right after you challenged their swagger and their intensity, they went on the run. That
No,
was
no, no.
exactly what
Credit to Bruce. The second we got a 1 point lead, he called a timeout.
happened.
And just again, like that's why I said as much as I trust these guys, I also trust this staff because they know this team now and they know what this team needs. And
Where is our toughness? Where is our swagger? That was exactly when it shifted.
I mean, it's so funny, like everybody was sharing that video of Rick Pitino challenging his dudes, and I was like, I didn't find that speech that inspiring. But I guess it's gotta be one of those in the moment things, right?
Totally, totally.
And by
All
God,
right.
oh, it was so good to see Cheney turn it on. We're gonna talk about. I'm gonna blast this out before we start recording. So
Yeah,
YouTube, if you're already here, what's up? Good to see you.
get it rolling, and I promise to keep it tight, as they
I got
say.
nowhere. I got nowhere to be tomorrow, man. We can go as long as old Matt Donaldson wants to tonight.
I'm I'm working. He went to bed at 8, so 12 is coming quickly, but we'll see. Should be able to do it justice because that was one of those moments, you know. That's one everybody will remember no matter what happens from here. That was a pretty special
Well,
run.
I've been trying to tell myself all day again, right? Like that's our sixth Sweet 16 ever. This is our third Elite Eight. YouTube, I'm going to keep
Right.
vamping until Matt comes back, just in case something came up.
Yep,
But man,
that's
it
right.
feels good to keep making history with this group because they just deserve it with how they play, with how they fight, ugh, how they lock
Yeah,
in.
a lot of good stuff to discuss for sure. Are you gonna
Yep.
pull up the box score or do you want me to?
Yeah, no, I can get it. Just give me 90 seconds. We've got it live on Twitter, about to put it live on YouTube. Jay Lowry in the Instagram chat. Shout out Jay. 31-8 run. the
That's it. That was the
the
game.
real ones know, man. The real ones know.
That was man, and just to do it, Janai just kept us in the game. The defense kept us in the game, and then you saw the whole. Remember that time of the year when we had so many scoring options, and you know you saw
Listen,
the
we no, no,
Avalanche.
no. We didn't have that many scoring options. Tahad, Denver, and Janai scored. What did they say? Like 36 of our 40 second half points when the game finally got put away.
Yeah, I mean that's true, but again, three guys who can put up 20. I don't know how many they ended up with, but I mean,
Tahad was close. Denver and Janai both had 20 for sure, but Janai's wasn't super efficient. All right, you ready to roll?
anyway, yeah, yeah, for
All
sure.
right.
You leading in?
No, I think Matt. I think you need to lead us in on this one.
All right, let me make sure I got the right.
All right, say when.
Uh, all right, I'm ready.
3, 2.
All right, War Eagle, everybody. Welcome back to the Jungle Podcast. Auburn just advanced to the Elite Eight for the third time in program history. Obviously, the first since 2019 in our Final Four run with a 78-65 win over Michigan. If you didn't watch the game, shout out Jackson, who's asleep somewhere in Europe. You might look at that score and think, oh, Auburn covered the spread and they beat Michigan and they advanced ho hum. No, this was, we're not even going to talk much about the first 30 minutes of this game. The last 10 were what memories are made of in March for so many reasons. Um, just so glad that this team, they were down 9 with, 12 minutes left, something like that. And then it was a 31-8 run that completely shifted the game. Ben Young is here, as always. Ben, you're up late on the East Coast. Well, how are the vibes for
Matt,
Jackson? How are the vibes?
the vibes are elite, my friend. The third time in school history, this team continues to make it. They have etched their name in Auburn annals for all time. You already talked about that insane run, but Matt, you poo-pooed on the first 20 minutes just a little bit. But those last 3 minutes of the first half, they were indicative of the kind of game this was going to be. Auburn shot miserably in the first half, but we won on the glass. We won on the number of shots that we got up, and eventually stuff just started to fall. And we had a couple of guys absolutely take over in that second half. And folks, if you're listening to us, you're probably not new to the Jungle podcast by now. Matt, it's time for some MVP talk. Who's leading the way for you?
For the longest time in this game, it was a Janai Broom. I was like, I will not allow anybody to take the MVP from Janai Broom. He had a kind of a not superb first half, but he had a double double in the first half. He was grabbing
11,
rebounds,
11
which was
rebounds, 10 points, right?
yeah, huge reason why we won that game. And then he came out in the second half and added 12 quick points. So he was at like 22 and 13 or 22 and 14 early in the second half. And then he got in foul trouble, and he and our guards started making things happen. And we've been talking about how guards in March need to step up. And it wasn't the most balanced scoring effort from our six options that we always talk about, but three of them, Janai, Denver Jones, and Tahad Pettiford, all scored 20 points or more. And it's a three-man race, in my opinion, between those three guys, and they all have really unique cases. What do you think about? Where do you want to start with?
I mean, I wish we had Jackson here tonight to share the Reddit thread with us, but as we said, Jackson's over in Europe. So, chat, you're going to make this podcast great for Jackson when he wakes up tomorrow morning to see that Auburn is still dancing after covering the spread with a 12-point victory. But, Matt, say more about Janai Broom's game. I mean, this is the second game in a row where we've seen him challenged by a true 7-footer. All we heard all leading up to this game was how it was going to be a battle of the front courts and how Janai Broom struggles with 7-footers. We've talked about it on this podcast, particularly offensively, how he struggles with 7-footers. He fouled out super late tonight, but he played 35 minutes. No, sorry,
30.
that's Denver Jones. He played 30 minutes, 16 rebounds to go along with his 22 points. Now, it was on 21 field goals, but Matt, his offensive rebounds and those putbacks were so huge for us to make sure that we did not have empty possessions in a game where honestly both teams struggled.
Yeah, no, for sure. It was his first really vintage game in a while. I know the shooting is still not great, but he did bang in a three early, which I think is indicative sometimes of how it's going to go for him. And he was physical inside. I think there was so much talk about uh, the two 7-footers for Michigan. And I know some people in the Auburn sphere were talking about like, why are people not talking about Dylan Cardwell and Janai Broom? Like they're good. And I thought Janai was great. He handled Golden and Wolf much better than Kalkbrenner. Kalkbrenner's a different beast on defense, but I think Broom showed he was player of the year material. And again, he did have some turnovers. He did have his fourth foul was really silly, and he was fortunate. I think that we had a big enough lead at that point to survive it. Um, but overall, he was a leader. He was tough. He was getting tough twos when nothing else was going right for us. And you mentioned the glass. The rebounding and turnovers were the key to this game coming in. It was a winding road to get there, but we did dominate on the glass, and he was the biggest reason why.
And my argument against Broom is a couple fold tonight. And, first of all, Janai Broom is the best player in America. I think he locked up player of the year tonight in spite of his 5 turnovers. I think the 5 turnovers, had we lost this game, might have been something that cost him, especially if that kid from Duke continued to keep dancing and lighting up the scoreboard. But the thing for me that makes this not Janai's game solely and makes him a little bit questionable in his supermandom was, like you said, he picked up that third foul, and from about 8 minutes to what was it, 3.5 minutes, we took him out of that game. And we did more than just hold on to a lead. We built a lead, Matt
Yeah.
Donaldson. That is a bunch of guys recognizing that Superman is down, and the Justice League came together tonight. And nobody was bigger in that Justice League than Tahad freaking Pettiford, man. He continues to average insane numbers in March, to hit circus shots that I'm screaming out of television. No, Tahad, don't take that jumper. But it goes in. This kid from Jersey is built so different. And Matt, you have been on this for the entire postseason run, but his maturity and the way that he handles the shot clock when we get a lead late in games is elite high basketball IQ. Talk about Tahad's game tonight.
Yeah, like don't, I think we said this on the last podcast, but just I remember a month or two ago thinking like, are they really going to give the keys to Tahad like late in these games? Because Denver's playing really well. The double bigs with Denver at point guard is playing well. It was the best analytical lineup in the country for a lot of the season. But man, Tahad just has something special, and the stats don't even necessarily show it all. It's the tough shots. It's the, he shook a guy so bad that he threw him backwards, and he kind of lost his dribble and still had the composure to knock down a three. And I don't know if that's the one he got fouled on. He's hitting tough twos. He's getting to the lane. How about the play where he got Golden out on him and he just blew by him with a hesitation move to get an easy layup?
Elite,
He's hitting it. He's hitting
elite.
his free throws. He started out really bad in this game too. Like the mental toughness of Tahad. He was turning it over. Trey got him once on a he was kind of a lazy dribbling it up once. He missed a ton of shots in the first half. I don't know. He ended up 7 for 14. He must have been, I don't know, 1 for 7 in the first half or 2 for,
I think he was
he made a
he
back.
was either 0 for 7 or 0 for 6. Yeah.
But second half,
But you're
man.
right.
And, go ahead.
His two turnovers were in his first rotation. He came in, you know, shout out Pat Adams. He didn't call a ton of fouls to start this game, which was nice to see for a change. But that meant we didn't get to our second rotation until about the 16 and a half minute mark. And that was when Pettiford came in. And he had two quick turnovers early. He finished with three turnovers. And his third turnover was a beautiful pass to a cutting Chaney Johnson that Chaney just fumbled out of bounds tonight. So I don't even count that. That's not really on
No,
Tahad. That was the right read. It was the right pass. You hate that somebody has to get credited for a turnover there, but I give it to Chaney. So
I was gonna say about Janai, there's no way he had 5 turnovers because one of those was a beautiful pass to Cheney. I looked down and Cheney only has one turnover. I'm like, there's no way Cheney had one turnover.
if you drop a wide open pass, it should be your turnover. It should not be the
Yes.
passer's turnover. But I said this. I said this on our Twitter thread. I said it in our group chat because Tahad was struggling with his shot early. It's not that they were bad shots. He's one of those shooters. He's got to see it go down once. And how did he see it go down? He got to the line. He missed his first free throw because I'll
You're
take
right.
credit for having cursed Todd Pettiford with his free throw shooting. But he saw that second one go in and he never looked back. And one of the amazing
Yes.
things about Tahad is he's such a multifaceted scorer that when his three pointer doesn't go down, he gets away from it for a little bit. He attacks the basket, he gets layups, he gets his mid range going, and then he goes back to the 3 point shot. He's got such discipline for an 18-year-old kid. I don't know what it's going to take in terms of the NIL to get him to stick around for another year, but boy, I hope we continue to see that zero in an Auburn uniform.
We'll figure that one out. I'm pretty confident. It'll either be he decides to try to go move on. I don't think he can go pro, but maybe he can. He's got some special to him that, you would hope he would come back and keep playing another year or two. But we'll worry about that later. I do have to point out as well with Tahad, we go down 9 and it's looking bleak. Like right before the stretch where we hit the big run. I mean, sometimes you got to give Ben credit. We mentioned group text Ben sometimes. He all caps. Where is your in where? Wait, I got to look it up. This was so good. It was in all caps, and it was where
there's
is
been there's
your
been something there has been something about this team that we found it in Maui and we kept it all the way through winning the SEC championship. That this team had toughness, this team had a swagger
swagger?
about them where no matter how much they got down, they did not care because they said, you know what? Eventually, we're going to figure you out. We're going to lock you down, and one of our guys is going to start hitting. And when that happens, it is over. And Matt,
Well,
you guys were in the group chat on this that when we played as badly as we did in the second half and went into halftime up one, everybody was chill because we knew this team could continue to lock in and eventually we were going to not regress,
but
but egress to the meet.
But then you go down 9 with 12 to go and nothing's going right. The body language wasn't great for a minute there. And I don't know if you remember, but the possession that started the 31-8 run was a broken play where Janai Broom thought they were running a different play. And he looked at the bench. The bench is yelling at Broom to run the right play. Taha just makes out of nowhere when no momentum is happening for Auburn. Drills a three off a broken play. yells at the National Player of the Year on the way back down to run the right play next time. It reminds me of that three he hit cold blooded when Alabama had that huge run in Tuscaloosa, and he just
That
didn't think
15-1
twice.
run to bring it back within one possession.
There were 26 seconds on the shot clock, and they had just tied the game, and he just launches a three and nails it. He just has something so special about him, and I mean that this performance in the second half from Tahad will go down with the Bryce Brown games in 2019. It'll be one of those things that and I hope Broom gets credit for we don't stay in the game and have a chance to come back and extend the lead like we did without Broom. And Broom's obviously the best player on this team. But it kind of felt like the Tahad Pettiford game. But we haven't even talked about Denver Jones, who had 20
I
points
was
on
going
a
to say
huge
it.
stage.
Matt, I'm here looking at the score with 12 minutes and 12 seconds to go. Michigan is up 48-39 before that three-pointer that you were talking about. We finished the game 78-65. We only allowed 17 points over the final 12 minutes from
And
Michigan.
half of that was garbage time.
Yeah, we locked up their guards. And even more than that, we got their guards into foul trouble. Nick Burnett and Jones over there, 15 for Michigan. We got them into foul trouble because we attacked the basket. But even more than that, we finally started hitting some three-pointers. Denver Jones doing the amazing thing of letting the freshman Tahad Pettiford run the one, going into that two-guard spot. He was 1 of 5 in the first half, or 1 of 3 in the first half, and I believe 4 of 4 in the second half. Just massive, massive three-pointers, cutting into the lane, grabbing some rebounds. If you ask me, Denver Jones is my MVP. He played 35 minutes in the game. He held Michigan's guards to. You could just see. I love Miles Kelly. Miles Kelly has been an amazing rebounder for us. He's such an incredible defensive guy, but he struggles to get through screens. The way Denver Jones gets through and fights around screens and forces guys to give up the ball. The way that Denver Jones did the Chad Baker Mazar tonight. I think at one point he was on a 7-0 run by himself with the way that he was shooting out there. I'm going to have to go back in and check. But Denver Jones' streak to help us stretch the lead, and he did it with Janai Broom out on the floor. We talked about this all the time in the early pods. Do we have a dude on this team? And we all said, Janai Broom. Janai Broom's the dude. I said in the preseason pod, we need Denver Jones to be a dude and to be a scorer if this team is going to go as far as it can go. And tonight, Denver Jones was the perfect Batman to Janai Broom's Robin. And given that he did what he did without Janai out there on the floor, Denver's my vote for MVP.
Wow. It's hard to, I mean, like I said, they all three have great arguments. I can't wait for Jackson to watch the highlights of this game because Denver, this was what he's always wanted from Denver in big games. Like the threes, 4 for 7, that's awesome. But he was going to the basket, he was finishing. You know, we talked about he had the dagger against Creighton. That was just a huge play to kind of put that game out of reach. He is just the real deal on both ends. And yeah, I mean, if you want to talk about player value, playing the most minutes, playing multiple positions, filling it up offensively, hitting your free throws late, limiting your turnovers on a day where we turned it over more than we have in months.
That was our most first half turnovers all year with 11. Thankfully, we only had 4 in the second half.
I mean, I'm not going to argue with you for the vote for Denver.
Matt, before we get into the MVP discussion, we're going to go to the YouTube chat here. But also, I need you to keep an eye on that Houston game because it's tied with 29 seconds left. So we're going to go here to the YouTube chat before Matt updates us on what's going on with the other one seed. AU Bear, first in the chat. Good for you to be here. Going to bed. But I just wanted to say, still dancing. Janai for MVP. Shout out AU Bear. We hope you listen to the pod tomorrow morning and not just hang out in there. Cam's Current. Disappointed in the crowd initially, but it got loud in there. Absolutely. You could hear it on the broadcast. It was incredible. Cam's Current is reminding us all something that we did not say at the beginning of the pod, which we should have. Matt, that is the school record for most wins by an Auburn basketball team in a single season. Mr. Gibbs says, we did it. Hod turned the game on with his swag. I think that's another vote for Tahad there in the chat. Chris Thomas, give me Denver for MVP. Great D, efficient scoring. Remember when we said Denver's offense doesn't show up in big games? Shout out Jackson. Can't wait for you to be the one getting roasted for your takes for a change. Jay Lowry's in the chat. Dylan was the man against Golden. Matt, we haven't talked about Dylan Cardwell's effort enough. I mean, we gushed on him in the Creighton game, but he was just as good tonight.
He is like he has become he's always been this prototypical Auburn man, right? And the glue. He is like I saw his press conference yesterday. He is the glue guy for this team. But man, I don't know if I've ever seen a better glue guy. He is playing his role so well. He is defending these big guys and taking so much pressure off of Janai for parts of these games. Um, and then he's just, have you noticed how much he's handling the ball in our 5 out sets, even though he's not going to
It's
be the one to
crazy.
shoot, but he's just a steadying presence. He's the one that starts to get the crowd engaged. He's the one that makes those. How many times did he swipe the ball away from Wolf and Golden and cause a turnover for
Especially
them?
late. Oh my gosh.
Like
It's
he does
incredible.
all these extra effort offensive rebounds and tips. Like he every hustle play, he is in the mix of it. And you don't have the season we've had without Dylan Cardwell, and you don't win these kind of games without those extra effort plays because I've been saying it all year. The difference for this team, it is the nation's most or second most efficient offense, whatever, it's great. But when this team plays defense the way we've seen in spurts, you can't play like that for 40 minutes. We know like it's impossible. But when they can turn it up and play with that kind of intensity, I've been saying it since Houston when we came back at Houston. Like that is going to be a hard combination to beat. And it brings me a lot of joy that when we got pushed to the brink today against Michigan, we're better than Michigan. You kept saying, like, we're just a better team. That's why we're hanging around. And you're right. For us to respond, not just hitting the shots are great, but to get all those stops that's what produces your 10-0 run you were talking about, your 18-2 run. Like, I was
And the
so
five
encouraged to
minutes,
see it.
the 5 minutes we held Michigan without a basket late.
Yeah, yeah,
It
for
made
sure.
such a massive difference. And Matt, we just leaned on our guys today. Chris Moore had a 2 minute rotation in that first half. And then it was, as you talked about, our 6 and 7 weapons. And Cheney struggled a little bit tonight, but he grabbed 5 boards. He had 3 assists. He scored 4 points. So we would love to have more from Cheney, but I think we got enough. And oh man, Houston just got a tip in at the buzzer, but I think there's 1 second left. So that game is not over yet, but it looks like Auburn is going to continue to have played the vast majority of the Elite Eight, except for our matchup that's coming up against Michigan State next week.
Yeah,
But we can't
I'm
move
I'm rooting
on.
for I'm rooting for Houston, by the way, because I want them to beat Tennessee.
Me too. I think they're the only team that can keep up with them defensively. Well, Chris Thomas is in the chat adding that Denver had an 8-0 run right when we needed to get the lead back to take us up from up 1 to up 9. Matt, that combined with the 35 minutes combined with the time that we were missing Janai. I know Ryan's here in our group chat saying that Todd, but we've recognized Tahad in this tournament. We've recognized Janai Broom in this tournament. We haven't recognized Denver Jones in this tournament. And I think it is past time we give the adult in the room the MVP.
If you listen to this pod, I'm not going to argue with guys like Denver and Jalen Williams getting MVPs because I think they get underappreciated. Bruce has been on it all year. And Denver is just, have you noticed how confident he's shooting when he gets any sort of look off of a rebound? He's not concerned if he's going to miss it or not. And I think at times last year and earlier this year, I think the coaches had to kind of get like, hey, like if you're open, shoot. Like you were a
Well,
20 point a game scorer at Florida International. Like we want you to be aggressive.
and Jackson talks about this a lot. When Denver's playing point, he's usually got the ball in his hands late in the shot clock, and it's maybe not the kind of clean three that he wants. But we've got Tahad out there closing out games late, and Denver's just home in that 2 position, coming off of screens, coming off of played calls, and getting to shoot in rhythm. He's such a better shooter. And Tahad just seems built for knowing whether it's time to give the ball up to, the 5th year senior or the national player of the year, or to the circus shot maker in Chad Baker Mazzara, or the sniper in Miles Kelly, or if he needs to drive to the hole. So I think we found the winning recipe for closing these games late. And tonight, it was Denver Jones at the 2 position while Tahad runs the point. So, Denver Jones, congratulations. Once again, you have won an Auburn MVP. Holy cow, Matt. All right, we got to
Wow.
get into some team stats here to break it down. We had yet another miserable 3-point shooting game. What is going on with our 3-point shooting? The roller coaster that we're on shooting from deep.
Yeah, it tells you how bad we were because we just gushed about two of our guards hitting hitting tons of threes in the second half, and we ended up at 29%. Um, yeah, it's two straight games we haven't shot great, and it's two straight games where all the things we've talked all year about how many ways this Auburn team has to win. And the reason they won last game is because they won turnovers. They got more shots up than Creighton did, and eventually Creighton cooled down and Auburn heated up. And it was a very similar script tonight against Michigan, but being plus 15 in rebounding and plus 9 on the offensive glass, plus 12 in second chance points, that will cover a multitude of shooting sins. And then the thing we haven't talked enough about, and you can talk about whatever team stats you want, but turnovers were statistically the thing that Auburn had a big advantage in because Auburn takes care of the ball really well, and Michigan doesn't force turnovers throughout the year very regularly, and then vice versa. And it's shocking. You had to watch the game to believe it, but it was a complete win for Auburn to break even on turnovers with the way this first half went. Some of that was Michigan's carelessness, but a lot of it was Auburn digging in and forcing I guarantee that was part of the talking point at halftime was we've got to force turnovers because that's one of our advantages of this game. So to come back in turnovers, to come back in shooting, we lost every shooting split from the field, from three, from free throws in the first half. We brought all those back and won all the shooting splits or tied, and we tied turnovers and you dominate on the glass and you get 12 more shots. You were on it all game. Like we're getting more shots. We're getting more looks at the rim. And that eventually carried the day.
But even more than that, look at the points off turnovers. We are plus 10 in points off turnovers. So
12.
even though turnovers had been tied, I had been begging for that for what seems like the last month, that we are turning these teams over. And when you do that, you have to make them pay. And tonight we made Michigan pay, and we made Michigan pay in the fast break. We blew one fast break that just broke my heart because we had a 3-on-1 and the ball slipped away from us. But there were several times where we would turn Michigan over and then go get a quick and easy bucket. And that is just such a great way to be efficient and maximize your points per possession. And Matt, you mentioned us dominating on the glass. Going against a couple of 7-footers, we out rebounded Michigan by 15.
Well, the irony is Michigan's not a great rebounding team. You get all this talk about the 7-footers, and they just haven't been statistically a great rebounding team all year. So it was an opportunity for us, I think, going into the game to be aggressive on the offensive glass. The number that jumps out to me too, Ben, we've been watching this team all year, and we held Michigan to 6 assists and forced 15 turnovers. So they only had 6 assists the
Winning
entire game.
basketball.
We had 15. Yep.
What that says to me is that you're frustrating their offensive sets and you're forcing them to play ISO ball. And against a team like Michigan, who we are more talented than, that is how you win the game. If you have a Trey Donaldson that feels like he has to play hero ball out there, you can force him to go 2 for 9 if he can't do what he does best, which is generate assists. Matt, how many assists did Trey Donaldson have tonight?
0. Four
Listen,
turnovers.
Trey, you were our favorite player when you were here. You were Matt's namesake when you were on the roster. It breaks our heart to do this to you, but man, it had to be one of us. So we're glad it's us tonight. Yeah,
Yeah, no
holding
doubt.
Michigan to 6 assists. Just also shout out to the staff. It shows the amazing scout that we got put together for this one.
No doubt. It was a terrific effort and it kept us in the game. It really did. When nothing was really going right, our offense was ugly, we're turning it over, we're not taking advantage of opportunities. That's how you end up one at halftime when you don't think you played well at all. I mean that you have to be good defensively. And Wolf got his points. He ended up with
Yep,
20. But I thought our
on
plan
18
was
shots.
great. Yeah, 18 shots and four turnovers for him as well. Like we I love you can't say enough again, the Dylan Cardwell effect, right? Having him and Janai, it was so easy for them to switch that big to big action when they were both in the game. And it just kind of it wasn't as easy, especially for Golden. Golden's like
Oh
an
yeah,
18 game point a game scorer. He ended up with 10 because he got 6 free throws at the end of the game. But like we really limited him. And then Wolf got his, but you mentioned Trey didn't do anything. What's his name? Gale has been like
Burnett
the really great player for them in the tournament. He ended up with 7 on 2 for 7 shooting. So just a terrific defensive effort from this team. And
and
it
defense
had to
without
be,
fouling. Defense
yes,
without fouling. Matt, you talked about this so much that how great it was to get out of that first half with so few guys having picked up their second foul and waiting in the second half to pick up that third foul. And everybody did a pretty good job of that except for Broom. And honestly, Broom's third foul was a little bit suspect. The fourth one I think was pretty clear going in. But
well,
our
the fifth one was a
guys
joke
are
too, and the game was over.
uh,
So
also yes, that would it didn't really matter. Um, we seem to be locking in defensively in a way that we're bottling our aggression. I think that's how I would describe it. You know, we're still playing hard, we're still playing tough, we're still forcing turnovers, but we're not committing the silly fouls, and that's giving us the space to foul a little bit more aggressively when we're on the ball, as opposed to picking up these ticky tacks away from the ball.
totally, totally. I sound like a broken record. It's been the key all year. Bruce said it in September. The defense, playing defense Auburn's way, the Bruce Pearl way, with effort and energy, without fouling, it's a hard line to be on. It really is. You know, they want to impact ball screens. They want to be up in everybody's business. We forced a 5 second call. You know, like we the way we defend when we do it right lends itself to a lot of fouls sometimes. If the refs call it a certain way, or if we commit silly fouls, I do not remember many really silly fouls on our part away from the basket or when we, I just don't remember us doing much. And I think that's a big key. And you and Jackson have been on that all year.
Yeah, I mean, it's just because we need those guys on the floor. Tonight was another one
Yep.
of those games that reminds us that we don't have the depth that we're
No,
accustomed
we're
to
playing
seeing in
seven
Bruce Pearl
guys.
teams. Yeah, we Jakai didn't see the floor. I saw a lot of really positive body language from Jakai on the bench tonight, which seems to be
Yep.
a nice change of pace. I think he can smell the championship on this team, and he wants to be a part of that and stay a part of that. So shout out
Jakai and
Jakai.
Turtle and Chris Moore, quite honestly, are all officially in like foul trouble by a minute or two, if absolutely necessary territory. And it really it's a great point moving forward. If you're really playing seven guys, you better stay out of silly foul trouble. And so far, we've done a good job of that.
Matt, you mentioned that Chad looked a little injured tonight. I didn't notice that as much on the broadcast, but I did notice there were a couple of times where he was hanging his head on defense, where it just seemed like he was getting beat. And
Well,
I don't know how much of
that's
that
all
has
the
to do with.
time. Yeah, and that's not new. Ryan said he was injured, or he might still be injured.
Oh,
I,
okay,
I
that's
do
Ryan.
think I do think he's working through something. I think a lot of guys are working through things right now. Not to downplay it, but look, I am very very happy that we survived this game from Chad and Miles Kelly offensively because they went 3 for 18. Neither was that involved.
One for
Well,
10
they were
from deep.
involved. We got them shots, but they just weren't. It's very rare. We're not gonna win the games ahead with that from those two. I just don't believe we can do that. So I'm very grateful to win by double digits against a good Michigan team um, when they both do that. Chad, I will say, whether he was slightly still banged up or not, when it was time to ratchet it up, his effort was there on some physical tough plays. He drew a bunch of fouls on that one. You remember that one long possession where we kept
Oh,
hitting
yeah.
and ones, they wouldn't give it to us, and we got in the bonus. Like that was
Yep.
huge, and he was a part of that. He forced a couple turnovers. Sure, he tried to throw a
And he
behind
was
the
getting
back
knocked
pass.
around.
He was getting knocked around. He always gets knocked around. But he got beat. I mean, he got beat to the basket a couple of times, and he's kind of a weak link on defense in terms of on ball. But overall, we need him to get healthy. We need him to get better. It's a quick turnaround for him. But he only played 25 minutes. He played less minutes than everybody except Cardwell tonight. So he got in foul
And
trouble.
look,
His third foul was the worst call of the night, and it made everybody really mad.
oh, yeah, it was brutal. And here's the thing. Listen, we know Chad is going to get scored on. We know Chad is going to have some bad possessions. We know Chad's going to probably have some silly turnovers because he's one of those guys out there that the stuff that he can do sometimes defies logic. and that comes with a little giveth and taketh. We've had some players like that on this podcast before, but what we cannot have from Chad Baker Mazara is the one play more. You know, the one play where you get in bad position and your guy gets a rebound and then you also foul him. The
Right.
possession where you miss a defensive assignment and you get a flagrant hacking at the guy's head trying to block the shot. And
Mhm.
we've now gone, knocking on wood, we've gone 2 games in a row with Chad not being the kind of player that we need him to be, but not also having that multiplier in the negative direction. And that's a big
And
deal.
that's the hard part though, is like yes, he's been very quiet since his last tantrum. Um, but he's been very quiet offensively for most of those last 4 games too. Like, um, I I don't know. Think I think we're about to hit the stretch where I've said it since last year and all this year. I mean, people, you can go back and listen to the podcast that I've talked about Chad. Like, we need him. We're going to need him to win a championship. We're going to need him potentially to make the Final Four. He brings an op. You think about that first 30 minutes of this game offensively. What was missing? Yes, Tahad had a bad first half. Yes, Denver isn't always going to be as loud offensively, but like we need Chad. Like we need Chad to make plays and get to the line and set guys up. And it's an important part of what has made this offense so potent. And I'm glad he has not done anything silly, but he's got to be closer to that middle of like playing the way he can play to impact a game. And he did some good things. I don't want to be too hard on him. He did some good things today, but we're going to need more from him.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And it's talking about hitting that ceiling. And if there's any comfort for me from this game, it's that we won this game going away and we didn't play our best basketball. I think if
Yeah,
we played that last 12 minutes for 40 minutes, there's not a team in this tournament that can beat us. Problem is, it's a 40-minute game, and we got to find ourselves locking in because the competition only steps up from here. We have a really significant advantage against Michigan State in that they don't have any guys that can really, well, they have a couple of guys that can shoot the three, but overall as a team, they're a very poor 3-point shooting team, which means they're going to want to go inside. They're going to want to attack inside early, and we're going to be able to run them off that 3-point line. So we're going to need all of our strengths to be our strengths to make it to our second Final Four.
it's kind of like one of the because the talk of this season, right, has been the 4 SEC teams and Duke, and all those teams are still out there. Um, I just so on one hand, you're like, cool, we get to play Michigan State. Like Alabama has to play Duke to go to the Final Four. That's tough. Tennessee has to play Houston to go to the Final Four. Florida drew Texas Tech, and I think Florida might be the best team out there. But
But Texas
the
Tech
interest,
of those is the one that I would want to play the least.
maybe I think I would take it. It's kind of like Ole Miss. Like people were rooting for not wanting to play Ole Miss a fourth time. Like, but to play Ole Miss to go to the Final Four is like pretty good. Like, that's a pretty good opportunity. And Michigan State, the
Wait,
problem with
Matt, are you saying that Ole Miss is maybe not a good team?
I can't say if they're good or not. You'd have to go to our Twitter to find out. Um, I, what I'm trying to say is for this team that has at times they've been up to every physical challenge. They've been up to comebacks. They responded. They showed their heart of a champion. They've proven that all year with their 17th quad one win or 18, whatever it is now. I don't even know.
I
Um,
think we're at 18. Yeah.
but to go through a Tom Izzo Michigan State team to get to the Final Four, it's going to require not playing the prettiest basketball. It's going to require all the effort, the rebounding, the toughness, and the consistency to match what they're going to bring. Because they have a special team. They're very close, like our team. Honestly, the two post games looked very similar. Izzo's crying after that game because he loves those guys. It is like the final exam to make the Final Four, and it is kind of a perfect test for this group. They've earned the number one overall seed and the right to not play Duke and not play Houston to get there. But I want everybody to like be clear. Michigan State poses a challenge to this team, and I'm encouraged by how they handled the last 12 minutes today that they can be up for that challenge. But it's a quick turnaround, less than 48 hours to play them.
And Matt, I don't know if you saw it. Tom Izzo is 10-0 against the SEC in the Big Dance. He has never
There you
lost
go.
to an SEC team in the Big Dance. So we've got one more
Yeah.
shot at making history. Matt, are there any more stats you want to talk about tonight as we celebrate Auburn continuing to dance, our third Elite Eight in school history, the second in our time as postgraduate Auburn men?
Um, I was just gonna say, no, no more stats. Somebody great running our Twitter today said it's gonna take something special because we've wasted the first 10 minutes of the second half. And you were right. And right after that, it took a lot. It was a very special. And I just think it's one of those. I can't wait to go back and watch the 31-8 run. Like I think it's just gonna be one of those things that just like blowing out Kansas and North Carolina in that 2019 run, like people will remember this game. It was late, and we have to give a shout out. I know you mentioned the crowd. Unbelievable. That place turned into Neville Arena in the second half when they had something to cheer for and when the effort and energy was there and they started hitting some shots. It was an avalanche. That's what it felt like. I called it in the start. We can change it, but the start of this Zoom call and the YouTube was that we avalanched Michigan, and the crowd was a huge part of that. So shout out to everybody who made that trip, spent that money to go to Atlanta and be there for the Sweet 16. It was a huge part of I think why we were able to pull this off. Even before we started the run, every time we would hit a shot, like I love that our guys are engaging the crowd, like trying to get them going. Our fan base still needs that sometimes. We're still growing in a way as a fan. So just shout out to the crowd. It was awesome to hear on TV, and it really came across great. If you were at the game, go back and watch it because it was a very cool moment for Auburn basketball to be the number one overall seed and to gain that geographic advantage and take full advantage of it tonight.
And Matt, there's a saying that no one snowflake believes it is to blame for the avalanche. And that's how we got to think about it going forward, right? It's not up to any one person to be the thing that tips us over. It's not up to any one of these players, not even the National Player of the Year, Janai Broom, to be the thing that tips us over. It takes all of us working together, fighting and locking in. And boy, we did it again tonight. And I hope everybody just continues to appreciate. We wanted to make a deep run in March so that how special this team was is undeniable. And folks, we have won 3 games in a row in March for the third time in our program history. It is undeniable. This team will have the word elite next to them for all time. They will have the term SEC champion next to them for all time. This will be the team that Auburn teams are compared to throughout history. Don't wait to appreciate how fun it's been and how good this team is and how special this season has been because you never know when it's going to end.
And you've quietly with a lot of controversy in that first game and the first half of Creighton. Um, all three wins by double digits. We've done exactly what you wanted to avoid the one possession games late. That's the key around this time of year. You see it every round. You just don't want to hang around. If you're the better team, you do not want to be in the business of letting a team have a chance to knock you off
Because
with a
that's where the
shot,
magic
one
happens.
shot, and that's where the magic happens. So we've done a great job. This will be the toughest test so far. Next, um, I'm rooting for upsets everywhere else in the bracket, just in case we win, because I don't want to play some of those other teams. But if we have to go through them, we have to go through them. And you're right. This being the third time Auburn's ever made it to the Elite Eight has kind of secured their place, right? Like in history already. But now what's cool about this is the pinnacle of the sport. Like Auburn hasn't been here very much. But when you're 40 minutes from making the Final Four, and for this group of players, none of them went to the Final Four. Have ever, none of them had ever been to the Sweet 16, right? Um, for them to have a chance on Sunday to get another week of practice, another week together to go play on that stage at the
And it's
Final
not
Four.
it's not just that, Matt. For so many of these guys, this is the end of their college basketball career. They got the
Yes.
COVID year, they get the NIL incentive, which means they don't have to go to Europe to make a living. They can make a living at home where their family and friends can watch them play. And then this is it. For now, when you can in a time when you can still run out of college eligibility, guys like Denver Jones and Miles Kelly and Janai Broom are never going to get to lace it up for their college and their university ever again.
Yeah.
And you
And
can
you get
tell
the sense. the message was received after the first game.
From a guy like Dylan, who's been in college seemingly forever, to be the one to stand up and say, "This ends when we say it ends." They answer the bell, and Dylan has been walking the talk since that game. He has been outstanding. This team has responded. It's just been so much fun to be a part of.
And now you kind of like everybody's kind of had their moment, right? Like Miles hit 7 threes in the first game. Janai finally, I think this will be a big confidence booster for him. Pettiford in Denver, we talked about. Cardwell's been amazing. Maybe Chad hasn't had his ceiling moments yet, but it's really encouraging that this team that there shouldn't be much nerves with this team at this point. I think they can go play loose and go try to beat Michigan State because now it really doesn't matter who you're playing. You just got to win one game to go to the Final Four. And I know the national championship is kind of like the pinnacle, but college basketball is weird in a sense that the Final Four is kind of like this bigger. It's almost bigger than the national championship. It's not, but the things that are on the line. You think about the way that 2019 team is still talked about, and it wasn't because they were the best all year. They weren't a good team in 2019 then, but then they got hot
Yes,
and
yes.
they made a run, and I just think for Bruce Pearl, how about this? If you make a second Final Four, you talk about legitimizing yourself as one of the great coaches in the sport. It's not as long of a list as you think of guys who made multiple Final Fours. It's hard to do, and we're one game away, and I'm really excited to see us try to do it on Sunday. I'm glad we have the opportunity.
It's such a it's such an impossible task because you think about the quick turnaround in the games, the fact that you don't have any time to scout. You think about how crucial matchups are. I mean, I've been talking about that NC State team from last year that, DJ Burns was a matchup nightmare for so many of those teams. North Carolina State was not a good team, but they came in hot, they came in hungry, and they came in knowing what their strengths were and playing to them. And they were able to bully their way into the Final Four until they ran into some real juggernauts. And that's why the Final Four is the pinnacle of the sport because it's hard enough to just get there. Like, forget about winning a national championship. National championship can be such a crapshoot because I think about
Yeah,
that Illinois team all the time. That was one of my favorite
yeah,
teams growing up as a young man. That was 37-1 going to the national championship game, and they didn't have an answer for Sean May inside,
yeah.
and North Carolina roasted them. And that they Illinois was far and away the best basketball team that whole year, except for two games. The last game of the regular season when Ohio State needed to make the tournament, and then the national championship game. But I still think about that team, just like I still think about Auburn's 2019 team and the run that they were able to go on. Because even if you're not a great team, it takes greatness to go on this kind of run. And
Yeah.
we're halfway there.
And you mentioned, I mean, it shouldn't matter, but it does. Alabama and Tennessee are already in the Elite Eight, so you want to win. Like you want to go as far or further than those teams, and I think that matters. And I'm glad that we have an opportunity to play again. It's like you've been saying, it's just you want to watch these guys play. There's so many seniors, so many guys we won't see in an Auburn uniform again. Um, and you just don't want the end. And we kind of had to stare that in the face, down 9 with 12 to go today.
I don't know, man. I don't know if I want to watch this team anymore. It's so stressful.
Yeah,
there's
Ben says in our group chat he's done what he did. He doesn't know if he wants to watch this. I'm like, Ben,
they're
the whole point
so
is to watch. You want to
I
watch
know
your
that,
team
but
one
they're
more
but they're
time.
but they're so good, and just a couple of times they've been so close to beating themselves, and you just hate to watch it. But then like tonight, gosh, it's like the end of that SEC tournament game against Tennessee. When this team locks in on defense, you sit there with your jaw on the floor,
Yeah,
watching
yeah,
them do the impossible, watching them be down 10 with 6 minutes to go, and suddenly it's a one possession game. Like that thing that all of us dread in March as the favorite and that you crave as the underdog. You just want a shot. You just want to be in that moment to have your chance. And I wanted this team to be a dominant team that just went on a tear. And I think the league is too good. I think there's too many good teams all around the NCAA right now. I mean, Michigan's a good team. Michigan is a good team. They're a hard team to match up with for sure. They won the Big Ten tournament. They got hot coming in, and it didn't matter. because we were better. And it's fun when it's fun, and when it's not, you just I try not to be stressed for the guys, but you want it for them so bad because they've earned it for so long. They earned this
Yeah,
number
for
one
sure.
overall seed. They earned that SEC championship team.
Well, let me
It's
tell you, if they go beat Michigan State by double digits to go to the Final Four, the narrative is now going to be Auburn is kind of on a tear. Like, no, I don't think anybody else is going to be able to say that if they make it to the
it
to
kind of
to the
depends on
Final
what
Four. So,
Florida does tomorrow against
I mean,
Texas Tech, because Texas Tech is a
Florida could have
bit of a
lost. Florida was down.
yes, but Texas Tech is a matchup nightmare for them. So if they find a way to overcome that, it's going to just be like what's the recipe for beating Florida, because nobody's found it yet. Plenty of teams have
No,
gotten Florida down. We were up 12-6 on Florida in Neville before things started to fall apart, and they went on their run of hitting three pointers. But man, our 3-point defense has evolved so much since that Florida game. And when you think about how much healthier we are than we were in that Florida game, but we've talked about this in the group chat plenty too. Like at this point, the stats, none of that matters anymore, man. Just survive in advance. Just be in the room where it happens to take your shot.
yep, and we're there, man. We are on the precipice of a second Final Four in the Bruce Pearl era. What an opportunity! Bruce Pearl has more Elite Eights now than Auburn program ever by himself. It's pretty special, and obviously you said it was going to take special. I keep coming back to that run, man. That run is going to be something that we'll always remember.
Championship teams have another gear that they can turn when it gets tough, because all of them get challenged at some point and all of them put the hammer down. And we have now watched this Auburn team for 2 games in a row put the hammer down. You can't ask for more than that.
Totally. And just glad to be dancing. I wish it wasn't Michigan State. I was really hoping like Ole Miss, uh, Iowa State, somebody, Marquette, somebody, but we got to go through Izzo. And for those who grew up around college basketball, um, Izzo is one of the most respected coaches in the history of college basketball. And
Doesn't he? Wait,
it's
hang on.
it's kind
Isn't
of like,
I know he's active for sure, but he's somewhere up there with like the most March Madness wins of all time, right?
yeah, he's got to be up there because they're always in it, and they made some deep runs. I mean, but am I correct? How many Final Fours has he made? Is it just one or two?
I think two. I think he's on that list of two.
It's a great example, right? Like Tom Izzo is the most respected dude out there, and he's made two maybe. Um, I I just want everybody. 2019 was cool because we went through Kansas, North Carolina, and Kentucky to go to the Final Four, our first ever. It was amazing. Nothing will probably ever top that run, unless we go win the whole thing right now. But getting to play Michigan State, and Bruce is going to talk about this, I promise you. Getting to play Tom Izzo in Michigan State for a chance to go to the Final Four, it's one of those moments you pinch yourself if you grew up an Auburn fan watching Auburn basketball for the decades that I did. And you're like, oh, wow, this is so cool that we have the opportunity to do this in Atlanta against that fan base, that team. Like, it's going to be fun. I'm already excited. What time's the game Sunday? Do we know? Have
I
they
don't think
announced it?
they've announced the times yet, because I think we're still waiting on. Well, no, Houston just went final, so maybe we'll check and see if they've announced times yet. I'm going to pull it up on ESPN here and see what we can figure out.
Yep,
But yeah,
4:05 Central, 5
you
o'clock.
you gotta just appreciate where we are, where we've been, where we've come from, and the heights to which we have now ascended. Because you're right, like growing up, like Tom Izzo and that Michigan State team, Tom Izzo is one of the active coaches with a national title under his belt. We
Yeah,
you don't get to play many guys like that on a regular basis, even in the SEC. So just knowing that that's who we're going to go up against. Again, we have arrived. We have arrived. You can't ask for a better Auburn team than this. You can't ask for a better opportunity than this. This team.
guess the line, Ben. Guess the line for Auburn. Don't look. Don't look.
All
Auburn,
right,
Michigan State.
I'm gonna say Auburn by 3.5.
Auburn by 5.5. I,
Why
you
does
know,
Vegas keep doing this to me, man?
well,
Hey,
it's because
Matt, I
we
think
keep.
we covered today for the first time in a month. Uh,
No, we covered. We covered against Creighton,
did we cover? Oh no, we did cover against Creighton. Okay, I was gonna say
but you're
shout
right.
out J
We
Dub.
were
We
not.
miss you. We
We
miss
were
you as
not
a
a
listener.
good. We were not a good betting team. for a few weeks there for sure. You're right. Anyway, I just wanted to take a minute to soak that in. It will be cool. I wish we were playing Ole Miss, but it will be cool to play Michigan State.
Yeah, it's just another mark on our historic run, another mark about us as a program that we're on this level now, competing against those type of teams, those type of coaches. You just can't say enough about what Bruce has done and the culture that he's brought here. And Matt,
And
there's really
let me
just
let me
oh,
hang on. I want to ask you one more thing, and then we'll do our fun question. Um, who are you rooting for? If let's say Auburn's lucky enough to beat Michigan State in the other three Elite Eight games, who do you want to Auburn to play?
listen, I don't care, to be perfectly honest. I know that we've beaten a couple of these teams and we've not beaten a couple of these other teams, and I think you got to throw all of that out because it's all going to come down to who can get a good hot start, who can stay healthy enough through the whole run, and all I know is I'm rooting against Tennessee and Alabama. I, I
That
cannot
well,
I cannot have Alabama make back to back Final Fours.
the narrative is going to be now. You mentioned it. It is a real possibility to have all four SEC teams in the Final Four. That is like one game away in every region from happening. Um, and I just want to go on record that I will be cheering against that in every region. Give me Houston, give me Duke, give me Texas Tech. I am done with those other teams. I do not want to play them. That's what I want.
Seconded. I agree with that take 100%. I don't want to.
Okay.
If we could be in a situation where we didn't have to play any teams that we played before, that'd be great. I would rather play Duke in the national
It's
championship.
impossible, Ben. It's
I know,
impossible because
I
we've played everybody on the other side.
I know, and that's why even though they seem like the better and more challenging team, we've beaten Houston, we've beaten Alabama, but we were still playing JP Pegues the last time we played Duke. So with our revamped rotations, give me a shot at Duke again. I don't want Tennessee or Alabama to have the glory of hanging a Final Four banner. Screw it.
Agreed. Agreed.
I think we match up terribly against Texas Tech, but I'd rather see them than see Florida again.
Absolutely. Yeah, Texas Tech's really good, but I don't want to see Florida. I really don't want to see Duke or Alabama either. I'm
Boy.
rooting for Houston.
Yeah, Auburn Houston national championship would be such a cleanse, such a palate cleanse for America.
All right, Ben. Well, are you having fun?
Matt, I'm not having fun. I gotta be honest. We've reached the part of the season where it's just too much stress for me. I want to enjoy it, but I want it so bad. But you know what? Let me take a step back from the precipice and just say, I think this team getting to an Elite Eight solidifies us as a program nationally. It solidifies this team's greatness. This team is capable of so much more, but this makes us undeniable. And that's all I've wanted for this team is for people to be able to look back and even the casual fans to be able to say, yeah, the team is pretty good.
Yeah.
And I think we're there. I think we did it.
We had to do it. We had to get to the second weekend this year. That's why that Creighton game was so stressful. In some ways, more stressful than this game, even though we
Oh
went
yeah.
down 9 to them. We had to get here, and now, like you said, at this point, everything is historic. I was explaining to somebody, and by the way, to your point, I got multiple texts tonight late after the game from people who are not Auburn fans because everybody's watching these games, and they were so impressed with that run. For people who don't watch Auburn basketball, to watch that turnaround and that avalanche. I think it opened some eyes for sure. And like you said, making your third Elite Eight ever and validating that Bruce has done it twice now. His March record has been spotty because it's hard to win in March. But this is big for him and the staff and the program. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. It makes such a difference. And YouTube, it makes such a difference for y'all to have stayed up late and be here with us. If you are listening to us on the podcast tomorrow, if you haven't thrown us 5 stars yet, come on. It's the end of the year. Throw us a rating, throw us a like. Make sure you hit the link in our description to grab yourself some merch from Warfam Eagle. Warfam, I'm sorry, I was not wearing your shirt for the Crichton game, and according to the Storm and Norman rules, you got to keep wearing whatever you're wearing when we're winning.
Sure.
So it's orange
We got to
jersey the
do
rest
it.
of the way.
Do what we got to do. Jackson, you're not allowed back in the country until Auburn cuts down all the nets. So you're not allowed back. You're
Sorry, Jax, you're exiled. We're putting a
You were
tariff.
exiled. I know it's rough out there in Europe for you. I know you're having a rough time, but just try to hold it together until the tournament's over.
We're
Okay.
putting a tariff on Jackson until Auburn wins the national championship. War Eagle, everybody. Good night.
Or you-
He's gonna love that.
that was good.
Uh,
I wanted to give him some shout outs to listen
yeah.
to.
All right.
Love
Let
it.
me see if I missed anything here in the chat. Uh, yeah, just Jay Lowry saying that I think it gets our big men ready for Florida or Duke. I think you're right. I think we Dylan Cardwell has just risen to the occasion. He's stepped his game up. You can tell it means a lot to him. Janai's fighting. I mean, you got to give him that much. Janai has no quit in him in this dance. You can tell it means a lot. So,
Totally.
you two.